Hi everyone, I'm t1Tina, and I'm really excited today because I have an opportunity to answer some questions for a friend of mine from Facebook. She and I have never met in person. We met on Facebook because we had other things in common, and I'm so glad that we made the connection because she also happens to be a nursing teacher. And she has reached out to me and asked me if I would be willing to answer some personal questions for her students. For me, this is a great opportunity, and I'm so excited about it because it's an opportunity for me to spread awareness to the medical community. It seems to me like the medical community in general, if they do not specialize in endocrinology and particularly diabetes, they don't necessarily have a good understanding of, especially of type 1. It's type 2 that they're more familiar with. And the fact that it's an autoimmune disease is also a factor. I think many people in the medical community don't really understand or recognize a lot yet about the effects of autoimmune diseases on the body, why they happen, and such. So, nursing students, I'm so grateful that you're going to take the time to listen to the answers, my answers to your teacher's questions. And Ellen, thanks for reaching out to me. I'm really excited about it. First question is, how did you find out that you had diabetes, and how old were you at the time of diagnosis? I was 19 years old. I was actually recovering from surgery. I had been in a car accident and I had to go back and have some surgery done on my hip. And I started having symptoms of blurry vision, frequent urination, constant thirst, typical signs of high blood sugar. However, I didn't know anything about high blood sugar or what the symptoms were. So excuse the phone in the background. I'm recording from my place of work, my beauty salon. So I went to the doctor. Unfortunately, she was able to diagnose me right away with high blood sugar, and it was clear that I needed insulin, not pills, to treat it. How has diabetes interfered with your relationships, social life, and career? Type 1 diabetes is sort of like a cloud that follows you everywhere. So it never gives you a day off or a vacation. And I don't even get excited about real vacations because I don't get away from what I really need to get away from, the diabetes. It comes with me no matter what vacation. I could go to a beautiful island and I'm still going to have to bring the diabetes with me. So it's kind of always hanging over your head. It doesn't really interfere with my relationships and social life other than the fact that a lot of times I get tired. So after a long day on my feet, as you can see, I'm a hairdresser. After a long Saturday on my feet, I'm tired, my blood sugars might be a little crazy, and if there's a barbecue going on, sometimes I have to just take every ounce of energy I have in me to go because I just don't feel sociable. Besides the fact that I'm kind of forced to be sociable all day at work, so sometimes you get a little introverted from that as well. So that's pretty much it for that. What aspects have been most difficult for you? For me, personally, I have what the old school people would call brittle diabetes. So I am super sensitive to everything. If I have a little bit more activity than normal, my blood sugar is going to go low. I'm going to become super sensitive to my insulin, and my blood sugar is going to go low. If I am fighting a virus and I don't even know about it yet, I'm going to have high blood sugars. And I might be dosing and trying to correct these high blood sugars, and yet they won't come down. That could also mean that there's a problem with my sight. So I'm going to have to check that and make sure that I'm getting my insulin and I'm not in a resistant area of tissue. So there are so many things about it that are actually difficult. It's also hard when I'm trying to work and my blood sugars are super high and super low, and I have to stop what I'm doing because, we work on a schedule here, and you don't want to make people wait, and you don't want to make people think that you can't function properly and do their hair properly. So that's really difficult too. How was the management of your condition during pregnancy? I had one miscarriage, and then during my pregnancy I did have a lot of high blood sugar, and as my weight went up, my insulin resistance also went up, so my blood sugars were higher and I was taking more and more insulin. I was very, very fortunate because my baby was born healthy. He came a month early, but he was born healthy. He was just very big, which is common with moms that are on insulin. So in that respect, I'm very grateful. Since then, I have learned and understood the risks of more pregnancies, and I have decided not to have any more children because of those risks. I'm fortunate. I have 2 boys, and I'm happy with that. Describe your interactions that you've had with nurses during your challenge of adjusting to your condition. I've had many good interactions with nurses. Some of my customers are nurses. I have family members that are nurses, and they're really open to having dialogue with me about it. But I've also had some really tough times. I've gone into doctors' offices, and when the nurses are going over, my questionnaire, they notice that I say that I have type 1 diabetes, and they actually will ask me if that means I'm on insulin. And I'm thinking, you're a nurse. You should know that if I have type 1 diabetes, I will die without insulin. But again, I just think it's not something that's really focused on a lot in the education of the medical community. So that has kind of been an issue for me. I have a group on Facebook, and just today, when I was thinking about answering these questions and what it was going to be like, one of my members of my group posted this. I have over 12,000 members in this group of type 1 diabetics only, or parents or caretakers of loved ones. And this girl wrote, "I feel so hurt this morning. I'm at work and a coworker brought in donuts. Offered everyone but me one. I would have turned it down already. I had had my breakfast, but still. When she said she's just trying to get rid of them, I said I'd take one. I'd just save it for later or something. I was told I wasn't offered one because I'm a diabetic and I'm not allowed to have one. So there's hint number 1. Then another coworker who did not know asked why I couldn't have one. I stated I'm a diabetic. She said she didn't know. The coworker with the donuts chimed in. She's not just a diabetic. She wears an insulin pump, so she has it really bad. She's not allowed to have one, then she said. Then she said she's seen me eating pizza before and pop, and that's so bad for me. I felt so attacked I shut right down. I've never had an issue with my coworkers and my diabetes before. I wanted to say I can have one. It's not going to kill me. Moderation is key, but I didn't. Also, that my insulin pump does not mean I have it really bad. I've worked so hard to get on a pump, and I take pride in it. I take care of myself. I don't eat badly. Once in a while, a slice of pizza or a dang donut is not going to kill me. I'm not even upset about the food itself, just the way I was attacked and told like I'm so wrong. I don't know what to do. I'd like to add that I work in healthcare, and we are constantly educated on diabetes along with many other diseases that we deal with on a daily basis. So there is really no excuse. So this is just one small example of the constant stuff that I see in this group. Posts from other type 1 diabetics who work with nurses who will say to them, should you be eating that? And the fact of the matter is, with type 1 diabetes, you can basically eat whatever you want in moderation as long as you know how to properly dose for it. And if you don't properly dose for it, for whatever reason, you just check and later on you correct it. So type 2 diabetes is a little bit more restrictive because they can't eat high sugar stuff because it generally will trigger a surge of insulin, and it could trigger a low blood sugar episode, and they have all these ups and downs with that. But type 1 diabetes, I think as long as we're well educated on how to deal with self-care, we can eat what we want. And so when people say those kinds of things, it's very hurtful, especially if it comes from people in the medical community. And I wanted to point this out to the students today because it really hit home when I was looking at the questions and answers, and I thought it was something that would be good for you to hear. My next question is, describe your interactions. Okay, that was the last one. What fears do you have about the future? My fear for the future is losing my livelihood. This is all I've done my whole life. I got trained for hair in high school, and I've been doing hair my entire life. I opened my business almost 10 years ago. I couldn't imagine doing anything else or not doing anything at all. I couldn't imagine. And I already am starting to have problems with feeling in my hands. I worry about losing my eyesight. I worry about losing my livelihood. It's a very scary thing. You worry about losing limbs. You worry about becoming so brittle that you can't get through a day without crashing, or, you can't be reliable to these customers. These are real concerns. And then, of course, on top of it all, my family means the world to me. My kids mean the world to me. My worst fear is that I die an early death from this disease because I take too much insulin, or don't take enough insulin, or eat too much sugar and don't dose properly and go into a diabetic coma. As type 1 diabetics, we take responsibility for these things. This is something that we have to know how to dose for if we're going to go ahead and eat like that. So I worry that if I die an early death because of my own negligence, I just can't imagine my kids and my husband having to look at each other and say, if only she had taken better care of herself, if only she was a little bit more careful. And I'm not perfect. I'm certainly not perfect. I have days where I eat junk food. I have days where my blood sugars go crazy, and it's nothing but my own damn fault. So those are fears, but, you also have to kind of live your life and hope for the best. Next question. Do you have a helpful relationship with your current healthcare providers? And if so, what's been most helpful? And if not, how would you like to change it? Right now I have a new endocrinologist, and I really love her. She's open to anything that I have to say. She's great about answering questions and being very thorough. She never makes me feel like anything's my fault or like anything is in my head. My last endocrinologist was great and reputable, but after a few years I started to find that she made me feel, and I don't know if she meant to, I don't know if she really thought this way, but I seemed to feel like she thought everything was in my head. Because if I'm saying I have low blood sugar symptoms and she doesn't see it on my graphs from the last however many days or weeks, she would say, well, you say you have all these lows, but you have highs, and we need to increase your insulin, and I don't see any lows here. But the fact of the matter is, if you're used to your blood sugar being a little higher than normal for a long period of time, like a month or so, and then you go down to, say, 100 or 80 or 70, you could have hypoglycemic feelings. And she should know this. She was a great doctor. So I often would feel like she was kind of turning that around on me. She would often try to raise my basal rates that come through my pump, and elevate my sensitivity and things like that. And so not my sensitivity, my carb ratio. So I would be getting more insulin overall, and that was very frustrating for me and scary, because one of my worst things is I don't want hypos. They feel horrible. I'm terrified that I'm going to have a seizure or have a hypo while I'm driving or something like that. I'm terrified of getting too much insulin. So this particular doctor has worked with tweaking, my new doctor has worked with tweaking my intake and tweaking my medications and sort of streamlining my plan, and I've been really pleased with that, and she really respects what concerns me. So I would say that is definitely a good thing. What concerns do you have about the financial aspects of your healthcare management? If willing, could you share the monthly cost? I have insurance coverage through my husband's company. So I'm very fortunate. It does still cost us money. He gets money taken out of his paycheck regularly for it. And then I have co-pays because, I buy all this equipment from Medtronic for my pump, for supplies. I have co-pays for my insulin. Sometimes it's like $200-300 a month just in co-pays. I believe they get less and less as the year comes closer to the end, but I still pay a lot in deductibles and co-pays. But thank God I do have coverage. And like, for example, my Dexcom, which is my continuous glucose monitoring system, it's covered 100%. I mean, that was like mind-blowing when I called and, asked about this, and they said it was covered. So I'm lucky in a lot of ways as well. I can't tell you exactly how much it costs at the end of the year, but it's a lot, and that's with decent coverage. Next question is, has the Affordable Care Act helped or hindered your treatment? In my case, personally, it hasn't done either. I don't know if our income falls in, right in the middle where it really didn't help or hinder us. I'm a small business owner, and my husband works for a big insurance company, and so my coverage hasn't really changed too much. It hasn't really been a major issue. What are your preferences for healthcare financing in this country? I personally would really, really love to see us go into universal health care for all. similar to what they do in the Scandinavian countries, in the UK, in Australia. And having this group on Facebook with over 12,000 people from all over the world has been very educational for me. It's helped to sort of quell the fears of, well, if you get universal health care, you're going to lose all your good options, and the doctors aren't going to get paid well, so they're not going to treat you as well, and you're going to have to wait for surgeries and treatments, and these are all common things that we fear. And coming from somebody like myself who has somewhat decent health care coverage, that is a fear. But I'm also willing to take that chance because I talk to others from other countries with my condition, and it's an expensive condition, and they're doing okay. And often they see our threads, how we talk about the expense of keeping ourselves alive, and they say they feel sorry for us. Geez, I feel sorry for you Americans. Over here in the UK, I only have to do this, that, and the other thing, and I have everything I need. So that's what I hope for us. I hope that we can manage to do it in a way that it doesn't hurt us as far as high taxes and things like that. I'm no politician, but that's what I would love to see. That's what I have hope for the United States. What kind of support has been helpful to you? Family, friends, spiritual community, diabetes support groups, etc. I'd have to say all of the above. I mean, I have a husband who is very interactive. He has an app on his phone that follows my blood sugar all day long. I've educated my children on it so they know, how to deal with things if something goes wrong. The girls that I work with are absolutely wonderful. I keep glucagon in the fridge, and I've explained to them what to do if ever they can't wake me up. And it kind of scares them, but they're just so wonderful and so supportive. I have an assistant who always makes sure that I eat. She'll do whatever she's got to do. She'll go get me lunch. She'll take over a customer. She's great like that. And I couldn't imagine not having that support system in place. I also do have the support of my spiritual community. I'm involved in my church. I'm a singer. I'm pretty friendly with some of the priests in my area, and I've shared a lot with them about my struggles with diabetes, and just having them hear me out and understand my struggles from a spiritual point of view. For a priest or a nun to give you that understanding and that sympathy is very fulfilling. So I highly recommend anybody who has a spiritual life to share that with their leaders, because those leaders often represent God, and their reaction or just their knowledge of it is very validating for me. And again, I have a support group on Facebook that I started a few years ago with just a few people because diabetes is so isolating. And so within 3 years, it has exploded to over 12,000 from all over the world, and that has been such a great outlet for me. I mean, I've learned so much from these great people in this group. What impact has diabetes had on your family life? Well, it affects my marriage. Not so much in a negative way. It's just a struggle. My husband worries about me. He gets woken up in the middle of the night when my sensor alarms because I'm having an urgent low or high. He worries. And my kids were forced to recognize that their mom has this disease that's very scary and risky. They were forced to recognize that and understand that at a young age. I've always tried to cushion it for them so that they don't have to live in fear that their mom's going to not wake up one morning. But the reality of it is, it's possible. It's really possible. So, like my husband, for work, he got a letter from my doctor stating that he couldn't be taken away on, these special assignments that they send these guys on for these insurance companies. He cannot take part in that because she really does not want me to be without him throughout the night. If I don't hear my alarms, if my blood sugar is that low or that high that I'm not hearing it, I really need another adult there by my side to take over the situation. So she wrote the letter, and he can't do this now. In a way, it's good because he's gets to stay home with me, but we also lose money as a result of him not being able to go on these trips. So that's a major thing in my family. What words of wisdom can you share with my students about helping people cope with diabetes? Understand the difference. Understand autoimmune diabetes. I wish, instead of calling it type 1, I wish they would call it autoimmune diabetes, because it's a completely different type of disease than the other types of diabetes. And I think that that's very important. I mean, it's only like 4 or 5% of people that are called diabetics are type 1. The other types of diabetes are not autoimmune. Often they're manageable through lifestyle, and as type 1 diabetics, we could manage our lifestyle as much as we want. We will still die if we don't take insulin. We will still have highs and lows and trouble controlling it at times, and so it's frustrating for us to not always get recognized for that. So yeah, my words of wisdom would be embrace all that's coming out now about autoimmune diseases. Understand that people with one autoimmune disease are very likely to have another one. So somebody with type 1 diabetes, they have it because their autoimmune system sensed something foreign about the cells around the pancreas. I don't know all the technology of it all, but or the technicalities of it all, let me say. But I know that the autoimmune system basically destroyed the function of my pancreas. I don't make any of my own insulin. I've been tested and I've got none. I have to give myself insulin. So it turns out I also have celiac disease. So when my body senses gluten, the autoimmune system kicks into gear and it starts sending all these antibodies into the digestive tract, and I get inflammation and I'm more prone to stomach cancer and digestive issues and pain. And so I have to stay away from gluten. Often these things go hand in hand, and it's becoming more and more, it's getting more and more revealed to us all. And anybody that I talk to who has an autoimmune disease has been through hell to figure out that they have it. So I just think it's so important that the medical community starts to realize that this is a common problem. I don't know why it's a common problem, but it's a common problem. Somebody with thyroid, hyperthyroid, or Hashimoto's, for example, might also have lupus. I mean, there are just so many out there that are autoimmune. We don't really know why, but we know it's there, and we know that they have a tendency to go hand in hand. So I just pray that the medical community will start to come to a greater understanding of this and awareness of it and recognition of it. The sooner that we can get diagnosed, the sooner we can be treated and live healthy, normal lives. And what is your current treatment and how is it working out for you? Insulin, diet, etc. I wear an insulin pump, which gives me kind of like a constant drip, which we call a basal rate. It is fast-acting insulin, and it acts like a pancreas in that my doctor has it programmed throughout the day. Different times of day I need a little bit more basal. This is just from studying my numbers. I don't have to take long-acting insulin because it's just constantly working in that way. And then when I eat something or when I have something that's going to cause my blood sugar to elevate, I will tell the pump what I need as far as how many carbohydrates or how many units of insulin for it to give me. It's not an exact science, but it doses in like tiny amounts, much tinier than what you can get through a syringe. So that helps you to sort of micromanage, which isn't necessarily such a bad thing with type 1 diabetes. So I'm happy with the pump, though it is quite a commitment to have a machine attached to you 24/7. And often I think about taking a vacation from it and going back to multiple daily injections just so that I don't have to have this tubed machine hanging off of me. I also take some other medications that are often given to type 2 diabetics, but it has helped with my insulin sensitivity. So I take small doses of Simlin, which is an injectable drug that helps with your absorption of glucose. It slows down your digestion. And also metformin, which is a very common medication for type 2 diabetics, but it has also helped me with my insulin sensitivity. The less insulin you have to take, the better it seems like I feel, and the less likely you are to gain weight and such. So I'm happy to take those other medications if it helps to sort of balance things out for me. Also, I have to eat a gluten-free diet, like I said, because I have celiac disease. And by choice, I am vegan. A few years back, 2010 probably, I started weaning myself off of meats and then dairy and then egg, and I've stayed that way ever since. I feel great. My labs have never been better. You know, my nutritional levels, my cholesterol levels, everything is great. The only thing that isn't perfect in my labs is my A1C, and that's to be expected with type 1 diabetes. It's usually a little bit high, somewhere around the low 7s. So I will continue to be vegan. Makes me happy to know that I'm also not contributing to some of the stuff that goes on with the animals, but that wasn't my first purpose. And that's basically my only treatment. You know, I use vitamin supplements and things like that. And that's that. So here, thank you again for being willing to let my student nurses hear the story they probably do not get in their hospital experiences. Thank you for reaching out to me and caring enough to learn about life with type 1 diabetes. I am truly grateful, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time. Good luck with everything. Good luck with your careers. Watch out for those autoimmune patients. Bye-bye.